when I went to be interviewed at Essex, they asked what I would teach, and I said various things. They then said, would I help teach the interdisciplinary course on the Enlightenment? So I said, oh yes, of course, wondering vaguely what the Enlightenment was. And indeed I did. And I also taught classical sociological theory. I taught Marx, Weber, Durkheim, a course that I continue to do today. And I'd read the Communist Manifesto and the Protestant Ethic, but I was reading up ahead of the students, essentially, as I was in the Enlightenment, reading Rousseau and Locke and looking at the paintings of Reynolds, Gainsborough and things. And this was a very broadening experience, and Essex in those days was a very interesting experience. The students were good, they were questioning. Students at that time thought that sociology might provide the answer to question the meaning of life. And I had stimulating colleagues, and I began to develop as a more general sociologist. Up to now, my work had been very empirical, very located in industrial sociology, with slightly broader things coming in, but not being the core of my activity. And in 1972, I wrote for myself a paper contrasting Marx and Weber, their theories of stratification. You know, the simple version is, Marx 1, Weber 3, but at this time, it was the Althusserian period, and Althusser and especially Poulantzas were exploring the idea that Marx was 3 as well, the economic, the political, the ideological. And so I was putting these views together and trying to decide what I thought about them. I never did anything with that paper, but I continued to work on that, and the idea was to write an ordinary sized book on that kind of problem, with 1 or 2 empirical historical case studies. One was the Roman Empire, one was going to be European feudalism, and one contemporary. And that gradually turned into the sources of social power.
That was the roots.
That was the roots, and that was still meant to be a single book. With these case studies and perhaps 1 or 2 more as a single volume. And this was when I took it the further step of separating the military from the political, and I gradually crystallized that as what is military is the social organization of lethal violence, and that is killing people or threatening people, terrorizing people, and that is not the same as the institutionalized regulation of societies over given spaces, centrally by law, but with parliamentary assemblies and that kind of thing as well. And that's political, and the two can and should be separate. And I find over and over again this enormous neglect of lethal violence among sociologists, and I think much less among anthropologists, but certainly among the social sciences that is sociology, politics, and also to some extent history.